Oh, you like donuts, eh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, have all the donuts in the world!
More.
When I was an undergrad, I learned that a PhD student at my university had written his thesis on the history of donuts in Canada. At first, I thought it was a really stupid idea. Why would someone spend that much effort on donuts? However, when I read parts of it, I realized that the thesis was not really about donuts, but had used donuts as a tool in order to understand consumer culture, work culture, economies, industries, and other facets of society. Canadians consume more donuts per capita than any other, so it makes sense to study the donut as a form of studying consumer culture in the country. After all, before the pandemic, going to Tim Hortons, which is basically Canada's Dunkin' Donuts, and then getting a cup of coffee and a bagel was pretty much part of my daily routine, as it is for many people. In the same way that learning about rice production and the consumption of said rice can tell you a lot about East Asian culture, or olive oil can tell you a lot about the Middle East and Mediterranean, so too can donuts teach us about North American culture. So let's jump straight through the donut hole. The donut is a symbol of convenience in the modern world. Sure, its nutritional value, being made out of fried dough, is not exactly on par with quinoa or avocados, but its diabetic inducing ring of glory would become a staple of mass production. Various forms of fried dough exist in various cultures, such as the Indian subcontinent, which by and large are also designed to give you heart disease. The Chinese have also had a pretty good version of the donut, which translates into a pretty unappetizing name, the ox tongue pastry, which by and large is also a diabetes coma waiting to happen. Nearly every culture with access to some sort of flour and some sort of oil has thought of deep frying the dough. After all, we're wired to find high caloric food attractive, given our brains evolved in an age of scarcity before the advent of the honey cruller donuts. In the Western tradition, donuts would trace their lineage to Germanic peoples in Central Europe and the Low Countries. Bread tastes good, and fat tastes good, and sugar tastes good, so why not fry the dough in oil and then coat it in sugar? In the Netherlands, the proto donut would emerge as they were balls of dough, not rings. But the Dutch would eventually found New Amsterdam, which was then conquered by the British Empire, becoming New York City. New York City's reputation for commerce, productivity, and efficiency made the donut a common food for people on the run during the city's bustling early days. In fact, they're still bustling. To make these early donuts healthy, they would oftentimes fry them in pig lard. Throughout much of the 1700s, 1800s, and early 1900s, most donut making operations were on the local level. This was due to a lack of refrigeration, modern preservatives, high speed communication, and rapid logistics of shipping ingredients that did not exist at the same time. In the mid 1800s, the ring shape would emerge as it was easier to fry the dough more evenly. Icing glaze, powdered sugar, and other toppings would be added alongside nuts and sprinkles. The holes would eventually be put to use, such as the Munchkins in Dunkin' Donuts or the Timbits in Tim Hortons. Non-whole varieties, if you could call them that, would also continue, oftentimes filled with jam or custard. However, the local production would change into mass production after World War II. With the mass highway system and trucking logistics set up, international trade, and ever-growing urbanization, and even more so suburbanization, various donut chains would proliferate, the most famous of which is Dunkin' Donuts from Massachusetts. Massachusetts, with this highly innovative, educated population with too much work to do and not enough time to prepare breakfast, would set the stage for the proselytizing of the religion of donutism. Krispy Kreme would be another pioneer of the yeast-based donut, with a lighter texture as opposed to the denser cake-based donuts of the past. During the 1960s, Tim Hortons would emerge as the major donut and coffee chain, founded by Canadian hockey player Tim Horton. Today it's an icon of Canadian identity. France has the Louvre, Japan has Kyoto, and Canada has deep-fried bowls of sugar and grease. With women entering the workforce and the prevalence of home-cooked meals on the decline, as well as the popping up of restaurants and processed foods of all sorts, this made the iron hot for the rise of donuts. On top of that, with high work hours, particularly in North America, donuts became a common staple in nearly every place that served breakfast food. While wages stagnated, workforce efficiency went up simultaneously. This need for convenience and high energy increased the demand for donuts and coffee, a factor that still exists to this day. Some boxes of Dunkin' Donuts say that America runs on Dunkin' Donuts, and this is by and large true for better and for worse. Donuts and coffee are emblematic of the efficiency, hard work, convenience, and gluttony of our modern day. May we accomplish all the success and get all the wealth that we can, while hopefully not dying of diabetes together in the process. Thanks for watching.